The ballroom of the Anderson Tower Hotel gleamed beneath 1,000 crystal chandeliers, each drop of glass scattering light like diamonds across the sea of gowns and tuxedos. Outside, the streets of New York City pulsed with the restless rhythm of traffic and flashing cameras. But inside, the air was hushed with reverence. This was no ordinary evening. It was the annual Anderson Gala, where the titans of Wall Street, old money dynasties, and political figures gathered in shimmering splendor to pay tribute to the youngest billionaire on the Forbes list, Benjamin Anderson. At 29, Benjamin was already a legend. He had inherited his father's empire, but had built his reputation on ruthless takeovers and a charisma that made investors swoon while his enemies trembled. Yet behind the flawless suits and calculated gaze, whispers followed him everywhere. He hates women. He doesn't trust them. He doesn't believe in love. It was more than gossip. In that calm, unbothered tone, cut sharper than a knife. He said it himself, "I will never marry. I have no interest in women. Keep them 3 feet away from me." And so society painted him as untouchable, the king of finance, who lived in an ivory tower, isolated, immune until that night, far from the glitter of Manhattan, in a modest brick church on the outskirts of Atlanta. Axelle Thompson knelt before an altar, lit only by flickering candles. The warmth of wax and incense clung to her breath as she pressed a copper coin, worn and ancient, against her palm. Her foster father, Reverend Samuel, had raised her since childhood, the day her biological parents left her on the church steps with nothing but a swaddling cloth and that coin. He spoke now, his voice trembling with both love and fear. "Axelle, you've carried a burden since the day you were born. At 26, your fate will test you. The curse will end your life unless you find the one destined for you." She laughed weakly, though her heart beat like a drum. "Curse, Reverend. You sound like the women in old Southern folk tales. You know me. I don't believe in superstition." Samuel's eyes glistened. "This isn't superstition. Your mother believed it too. And now, the time has come. The man who holds the other half of this coin, whose life was once saved by your master, is your salvation. Without him, you won't survive." Axelle looked down at the copper coin, split cleanly in half. Somewhere out there, a stranger carried the other piece. And her life, her very heartbeat, was tied to his. "Who is he?" she whispered. Reverend Samuel's answer chilled her to the bone. "His name is Benjamin Anderson." Axelle had seen Benjamin on television 100 times. His chiseled jaw, icy blue eyes, and the cold arrogance that came with power. He lived in a world galaxies away from hers. She, a waitress by day and dreamer by night, whose biggest battle was paying rent on time, could not imagine approaching a man who ruled financial empires. Yet destiny had a cruel way of pushing her forward. The Reverend placed his hands on her shoulders. "Go to him, Axelle, no matter how impossible it feels. Only by marrying him can you break the curse." Her laugh broke fragile. "Marry him? Reverend, do you hear yourself? That man wouldn't even look at me." "I'm nobody." "You are not nobody," Samuel said firmly. "You are chosen. And whether he believes it or not, Benjamin Anderson needs you as much as you need him." That very night, in the heart of New York, Benjamin stood beneath the glow of chandeliers, shaking hands with senators and CEOs, his expression calm and unreadable. Reporters lined the velvet ropes, their voices sharp like knives. "Mr. Anderson, are the rumors true? Are you finally engaged? Who is the mystery woman linked to you last week? Will you ever consider marriage?" Benjamin paused at the foot of the grand staircase. His lips curved not into a smile but a dismissive smirk. "I am not interested in marriage. Or women. Keep your questions 3 feet away, just like them." Gasps rippled across the crowd. Some ladies flushed with embarrassment. Others whispered with glee at his cruelty. The press scribbled furiously, eager to splash his words across tomorrow's front pages. Benjamin, unbothered, turned away. And then the chaos began. Axelle pushed through the sea of gowns and jewels, breathless, her thrift store dress sticking out like a bruise against the glittering wealth around her. Security tried to block her, but she clutched the copper coin tightly, her courage burning brighter than her fear. "Mr. Anderson." Her voice rang out across the ballroom. Heads turned. The crowd hushed. Benjamin froze. For a split second, annoyance flickered in his eyes. Then he saw her, a young woman with luminous dark skin, eyes burning with determination, standing barefoot after losing her heels in the struggle. She was not glamorous, not polished. She was real, trembling, but unyielding. Axelle dropped to her knees before him, holding out the coin. "Please, marry me." The ballroom erupted. Gasps, laughter, and scandalized whispers rolled like thunder. Benjamin's eyes narrowed into icy slits. "Who the hell are you?" she whispered. "Someone who doesn't want to die." Voice cracking yet strong. "Someone who needs you to survive." And before he could stop her, before security could drag her away, Axelle leaned forward and pressed her lips against his. Time froze. The flash of cameras painted the moment in blinding white. Gasps turned into shrieks, the ballroom a storm of disbelief. Benjamin stood rigid, his mind a battlefield of outrage and something else, something he hadn't felt in years. Her lips trembled against his, desperate yet gentle, as though this kiss was a plea and a promise. For the first time, Benjamin felt his carefully built walls crack. Then anger surged back, burning through him. He shoved her away. "Get her out of here," he barked, voice sharp as thunder. Security rushed forward, seizing Axelle by the arms. But even as she was dragged toward the exit, she turned back, her eyes locked on his. "You may hate me now," she said, voice carrying above the chaos. "But one day, Benjamin Anderson, you'll remember this kiss. And when you do, it will be too late to deny that I was meant to save you." The crowd roared with laughter and outrage, dismissing her as a lunatic. But Benjamin, for reasons he could not name, felt the echo of her words lodge deep within his chest. Outside, the January night cut sharply against Axelle's skin as reporters swarmed her. Flashbulbs, insults, and jeers followed her down the icy pavement. Who is she? Crazy. A gold digger. Scandalous. How did security let her in? But beneath the noise, her heart hammered with something stranger than humiliation. Hope. Because when her lips touched his for the briefest moment, she felt warmth. Not just the warmth of his skin, but of fate, a lining of something ancient stirring awake. She whispered into the night, gripping the coin tightly. "I found you. No matter what it takes, Benjamin. I won't give up." Back inside the gala, Benjamin poured himself a bourbon, trying to wash away the phantom of her touch. His advisors scolded him. PR managers scrambled to spin the scandal, and socialites sneered about the insane girl from nowhere. Yet Benjamin's mind refused to quiet. Who was she? How had she looked him in the eye without fear? And why, damn it, did the ghost of that kiss still linger on his lips? He clenched his jaw, shattering the crystal glass in his hand. "Find out who she is," he ordered coldly. Far from the glittering chaos, Axelle stared at the city skyline in her small apartment. She knew she had just thrown herself into the lion's den. The world would mock her, Benjamin would despise her, and danger would hunt her down. But destiny was never gentle. Her reflection in the window shimmered against the city lights. She pressed the coin to her chest, whispering to the night, "Even if you hate me now, one day you'll understand. And when that day comes, Benjamin Anderson. Nothing in this world will keep me from you. And so the story began, with a kiss that should never have happened yet, would change everything. The next day, New York woke to chaos. Every newsstand, every glowing billboard in Times Square, every trending feed on Twitter carried the same image, a young black woman kissing the untouchable Benjamin Anderson in the middle of his gala. Billionaire, shocked by stranger's kiss. Who is she, the woman who dared defy the king? Axelle Thompson, saint or schemer? Axelle sat on the edge of her narrow bed, her phone buzzing with notifications she couldn't bear to open. Her small apartment in Harlem felt smaller than ever. The world had decided she was a joke, a gold digger, a lunatic. She had risked everything, and now she was paying the price. But beneath the fear, her heart beat steady. She remembered the look in Benjamin's eyes, anger, but something else, something unspoken. The prophecy was real. She had felt it. She whispered to herself, clutching the copper coin, "I won't back down." Not yet. Across the city, inside the steel and glass fortress of Anderson Global headquarters, Benjamin slammed the morning paper onto the mahogany desk. Her face stared back at him, full of fire, even in a grainy photo. Reporters had found her name, her job history, her address. She was everywhere. Unacceptable, Benjamin muttered. His voice was sharp, like a blade dragged across glass. His assistant, Richard Hale, cleared his throat carefully. The board is furious. Investors are worried this incident may damage your image. They want a statement. Benjamin's jaw tightened. He had built his empire on control, on never allowing anyone to dictate the narrative. And yet, a girl he had never met had stolen the headlines overnight. "No statement," he said coldly. "The more we speak, the more we feed the fire. It will burn out." Richard hesitated. "And?" The girl. Benjamin leaned back, staring at the skyline. The girl. Axelle Thompson. He should despise her. She had humiliated him in front of the world. And yet when he closed his eyes, he still felt the imprint of her lips, soft, trembling, desperate. "Find out everything about her," he said finally, quietly. By afternoon, Axelle's world had collapsed. When customers recognized her, she lost her waitressing job and mocked the restaurant for the hiring scandal. Online trolls flooded her with threats. Paparazzi camped outside her building. Her landlord knocked on her door, scowling. "The press is bad for business. You've got a week to move out." Axelle swallowed the lump in her throat. She wanted to scream, to beg, but pride kept her standing tall. She packed her suitcase with shaking hands. As she stepped onto the crowded street, reporters swarmed. "Axelle, are you in love with Benjamin Anderson? Did you plan the kiss for fame? Are you pregnant with his child?" She shoved past them, tears stinging her eyes. But inside, a fierce voice whispered, "This is just the beginning. Don't let them break you." Fate, however, was not finished weaving its cruel tapestry. That evening, while trying to hide from cameras in the quiet corner of Central Park, Axelle stumbled upon a familiar figure. Benjamin Anderson. He was not in his usual armor of suits and bodyguards. He stood alone by the frozen lake, coat collar turned up against the winter wind. His posture was rigid, as though carved from stone. Their eyes met. Silence stretched between them for a heartbeat, filled only by the distant sound of traffic. Axelle's breath caught. She should run. He hated her, but her feet moved closer, as if pulled by invisible strings. Benjamin spoke first, his voice low, dangerous. "You have a talent for destruction, Miss Thompson. My company's stocks dipped 2 points this morning. Investors are circling like vultures. And you—" His eyes burned into hers. "You sleep in comfort knowing you've turned my life into a circus." Axelle lifted her chin, though her voice trembled. "I didn't mean to ruin you. I only did what I had to. If you knew why, you wouldn't despise me so much. Benjamin's laugh was bitter, humorless. You think I care about your excuses? Women like you desperate for attention, for money. You make me sick. Her heart stung, but she refused to look away. Then why are you here, Benjamin, alone? Staring at the lake like a man searching for something he's already lost. For the first time, his expression cracked. Just slightly. Before he could answer, his phone rang. He turned sharply, his mask sliding back into place. Please stay away from me, Axelle, or the next time I won't be so merciful. And then he was gone, swallowed by the night. Days bled into nights. Axelle tried to find work, but every door closed. Her name was tainted. She was the girl who kissed Benjamin Anderson. One evening, as she wandered the neon-lit streets of Brooklyn, she overheard a conversation outside a luxury hotel. Anderson hires new staff, discreet, loyal, clean background checks. The household is short on maids after the scandal. Axelle froze. Work. Inside Benjamin's world. It was reckless, wild. But maybe it was fate opening a door. She straightened her shoulders, determination blazing. If destiny wanted her near him, she would find a way. The Anderson estate in Miami was a palace of marble and glass, overlooking the ocean, guarded like a fortress. Axelle walked through the staff entrance with borrowed heels and borrowed confidence, clutching a forged resume her friend had helped her prepare. The head housekeeper, Mrs. Whitmore, eyed her skeptically. Experience. Yes, ma'am. Axelle lied smoothly. Housekeeping, childcare, and even cooking when needed. Mrs. Whitmore sniffed. You're young, but we're short on hands. Don't cause trouble, and you'll last a week. Axelle exhaled in relief. She was in. That night, as she carried linens through the long corridors, she saw Benjamin descending the grand staircase. He wore a dark shirt, sleeves rolled, exposing veins along his forearms. His gaze swept the hall, cold and commanding. For a moment, their eyes locked. Recognition flared in his icy stare. Axelle's pulse thundered. She lowered her gaze quickly, pretending to be just another maid. But Benjamin's voice cut through the silence. You. She froze. Look at me, he ordered. Slowly, she lifted her head. His eyes narrowed sharp with disbelief. What the hell are you doing in my house? Mrs. Whitmore hurried forward. Mr. Anderson. This is the new maid, Miss Thompson. Thompson? His lips curled. Of course. Who else would dare infiltrate my home? Axelle's knees trembled, but she held her ground. I needed work. I needed a chance. That's all. Benjamin stepped closer, his presence suffocating. Is this some game? You humiliate me in front of the world, and then you sneak into my home under disguise. Her voice cracked, but her eyes shone with defiance. I didn't sneak in. I applied. I was hired. And if you truly hate me, fire me. But don't stand there pretending you don't feel anything, because I saw it, Benjamin. In your eyes. For a second, when I kissed you, you felt something too. Silence crashed over the room. Staff members exchanged nervous glances. Mrs. Whitmore swallowed hard, retreating. Benjamin's fists clenched. He wanted to deny it. He tried to throw her out, erase her from his world. But instead, his voice came out low, almost guttural. Get back to work. Later that night, Benjamin sat alone in his study, bourbon swirling in his glass. He replayed her words again and again. You felt something too. He hated her audacity. He hated her stubbornness. But most of all, he hated himself for remembering the softness of her lips, hearing her voice in his head, and wondering what truths she was hiding behind those fierce eyes. He closed his eyes, exhausted. And in the silence, he whispered the name he swore he would never say aloud. Axelle. In her small attic room, Axelle sat by the window, staring at the ocean under the moonlight. The salt air brushed against her skin, carrying whispers of destiny. She knew she had entered the lion's den. She knew Benjamin could destroy her at any moment. But she also knew fate had placed her exactly where she needed to be. She pressed the copper coin to her lips, her whisper carried away by the waves. "I'll stay, Benjamin. Even if you push me away 1,000 times, I'll wait, because the prophecy isn't wrong. And one day, you'll see me not as your enemy, but as the woman who was meant to save you." From the balcony above, Benjamin watched her. He should have turned away, left her to her foolish dreams. But he didn't. He stood in the shadows, unseen, studying the curve of her shoulders, the quiet strength in her gaze. And in that moment, against his will, against every vow he had made to himself, obsession took root. Axelle Thompson had dared to defy the king. And now, whether he admitted it or not, Benjamin Anderson could not stop thinking about her. The sea roared beyond the sprawling Anderson estate, waves crashing against the shore, as if echoing the storm building inside the mansion's walls. Axelle adjusted the maid's uniform, which felt too tight across her shoulders, and the white apron was crisp but suffocating. She wasn't born to serve. Every bone in her body rejected submission. But she was here and would endure because survival demanded it. Her first morning began with silence, heavy, suffocating silence. Axelle walked carefully through the grand corridors carrying fresh linens. Marble floors stretched endlessly, reflecting her hesitant steps. On the second floor, a door creaked open. Benjamin emerged, dressed in charcoal slacks and a white shirt rolled at the sleeves, his hair still damp from the shower. The sight of him hit her like lightning, sharp jaw, piercing blue eyes, the aura of power that made even silence feel dangerous. He stopped when he saw her. The hallway contracted, leaving only the two of them suspended in tension. "You're still here," he said flatly. Axelle met his gaze, forcing courage into her voice. "Mrs. Whitmore gave me tasks. Unless you intend to fire me, I'll do them." His eyes flickered, cold but curious. Most people would have run by now. "You thrive on humiliation." "Miss Thompson, I thrive on survival," she replied. His lips pressed into a thin line. For a moment it seemed as though he would dismiss her outright. Instead, he brushed past the faint scent of cedarwood cologne trailing behind. Axelle exhaled when he disappeared down the stairs, her knees weak, but her resolve unshaken. That evening, the estate filled with voices. Benjamin's half-sister Claudia Anderson arrived unannounced, her heels clicking across marble like gunfire. Elegant blonde and cruel Claudia's smile never reached her eyes. "Benny," she purred, leaning to kiss his cheek, though he tilted away. "Imagine my shock reading about your scandal. You've always been so careful. But now, a maid turned media darling." Benjamin's jaw hardened. "She's irrelevant." Claudia's gaze slid to Axelle, who stood quietly by the dining table, arranging crystal glasses. The disdain in Claudia's eyes was a dagger. "So this is her, the woman who made a fool of you in front of the country." Axelle stiffened, but kept her hand steady. Claudia smirked. Cute in a tragic sort of way. "I hope you've enjoyed your 15 minutes, sweetheart. Because in our world, girls like you are disposable." Benjamin's voice cut through the air like frost. "Enough." Claudia raised a perfect brow. Defending her. "How interesting." "Careful, brother. Obsession looks very much like weakness." She swept out of the room, perfume lingering like poison. Axelle released the breath she'd been holding. For once, Benjamin didn't look at her with anger. But neither did he speak. His silence was a riddle, and she wondered what side of him she had just glimpsed. Later that night, Axelle carried documents into Benjamin's study as instructed. The room smelled of leather and bourbon bookshelves towering like sentinels around them. Benjamin sat behind his desk, glasses perched on his nose as he scrawled notes across a contract. His presence filled the space, magnetic and dangerous. She placed the papers down, her hand trembling slightly. "Don't touch that," he said sharply, eyes still on the page. "I was only doing what Mrs. Whitmore asked." His gaze lifted, icy and unyielding. "When you're in this room, you follow my orders, no one else's." Heat rose in her chest. "Do you always have to be this cruel?" Something flickered in his eyes, a crack in the armor. He rose from his chair, moving around the desk until he stood close enough for her to feel the weight of his presence. "I don't tolerate chaos," he said quietly, dangerously. "And you are chaos embodied. You stormed into my world with that ridiculous kiss, turned me into a headline. And now you linger in my house like a ghost I can't banish." Axelle's breath caught, but she refused to back down. "You can't banish me because you don't want to." His jaw tightened. Silence hummed with electricity. For a moment, his gaze dropping briefly to her lips before snapping back to her eyes. "Leave," he commanded hoarsely. She left, but her heart thundered with a dangerous truth for one fleeting second. Benjamin Anderson had almost kissed her back. That night, sleep would not come. Axelle tossed beneath thin sheets, sweat beading her forehead despite the ocean breeze. Dreams clawed at her, visions of shadows pulling her into darkness. A whisper followed her. 26. 26. She jolted awake, gasping. Her chest ached as though invisible hands pressed against her ribs. The curse. It was real. Her time was running out. Her hands shook as she clutched the coin. "Don't let me die. Not like this," she whispered into the night. Unbeknownst to her, Benjamin stood on the balcony above, watching her silhouette in the moonlight. He didn't know why he lingered there, why he cared. But something about her fragility unsettled him. He clenched his fists. She's a distraction, nothing more. Yet his eyes did not leave her. By morning, the scandal had not died, it had grown. Tabloids accused Axelle of being a con artist. Pundits on talk shows debated whether Benjamin's empire was at risk. Benjamin's board of directors demanded damage control. "Distance yourself. Publicly humiliate her if you must," one growled. But Benjamin remained silent, his thoughts a storm he refused to share. Later, as Axelle polished silverware in the kitchen, Mrs. Whitmore handed her a magazine. On the cover, Axelle's photo circled in red, with the headline, "The Maid Who Wants to Marry a Billionaire." Her cheeks burned. She wanted to tear it apart, to scream, but instead, she swallowed the humiliation. "Don't let it break you," Mrs. Whitmore murmured. For all her sternness, there was pity in the older woman's eyes. Axelle forced a smile, but inside she whispered, "I'll endure. Even if the whole world laughs, I'll endure." That evening, a thunderstorm swept across Miami. Rain hammered against the mansion's windows. As Benjamin returned from a board meeting, his suit damp, his mood darker than the sky. Axelle was in the foyer, wiping rainwater from the marble floor. Lightning illuminated the tension when their eyes met. He moved closer, his expression unreadable. "You've turned my world upside down," he said quietly. "Why? Why me?" Her breath hitched. She wanted to tell him everything. The prophecy, the curse, the coin. But fear held her tongue. He would never believe her. Instead, she whispered, "Because fate doesn't make mistakes." His eyes burned with something fierce, something dangerous. Lightning split the sky again, thunder shaking the house. And then in a moment, neither could control. Benjamin's hand cupped her chin, tilting her face upward. His lips hovered a breath away, the storm outside raging, as if to mirror the tempest inside. But just before the kiss could seal the air between them, he pulled back, cursing under his breath. "Stay out of my way, Axelle, for both our sakes." Axelle watched him disappear into the shadows of the mansion, her heart trembling with both longing and despair. She knew then that their fates were chained together whether he admitted it or not. And Benjamin, alone in his study, poured another drink with shaking hands. He told himself she was chaos, a curse, a distraction. But the truth gnawed at him. He could not stop thinking about her. And that, he realized with a shiver, was the most dangerous thing. The storm had passed, but the mansion still smelled faintly of rain, wet earth, salt air, and the sharp tang of ozone. Axelle stood by her small attic window, staring out at the endless sweep of the ocean. The waves rolled like her heart, restless, relentless, incapable of calm. She touched the copper coin at her throat. Every day, the whispers grew louder. Every night, the dreams darker. The curse felt real now, its shadow hovering over her every breath. And yet, within the storm of uncertainty, one truth burned bright: Benjamin. He was the axis on which her fate turned, the man who both rejected and consumed her. Morning brought unwelcome news. Mrs. Whitmore found Axelle in the kitchen and handed her a sealed envelope. "It's from Atlanta," the housekeeper said quietly, her eyes unreadable. Axelle's heart stilled. She instantly tore it open, recognizing her father's handwriting, sharp, impatient strokes. "Come home. Immediately. Please do not embarrass us further." Her stomach knotted. Her family had always treated her as an unwanted shadow, a walking curse. But now, after the scandal, they had summoned her like a servant called to be punished. She considered ignoring it, but something inside whispered that she had to face them, that the chains of her past must be broken if she was to claim her future. The Anderson chauffeur drove her down I-95, hours of highway stretching like a ribbon of fate. Axelle pressed her forehead against the glass, watching pine forests blur into city skylines. Her childhood home in Atlanta's wealthy Buckhead district rose before her like a memory she wished she could forget. The grand house was beautiful from the outside, columns and manicured lawns, but it had always been a prison for Axelle. Her stepmother Vivian opened the door. Perfect hair, perfect pearls, a smile, sharp as glass. Well, the prodigal daughter returns. Or should I say, the scandalous maid. Axelle stiffened. "I came because father asked me." Of course he did. He couldn't risk his reputation with everyone whispering that his discarded daughter is chasing after a billionaire. Inside, the dining room gleamed with crystal and silver. Her father, Charles Thompson, sat at the head of the table, his expression stone. Beside him, her half-sister Celeste, draped in designer silk, smirked with satisfaction. Charles's voice cut like a blade. "You've disgraced this family. Do you think we don't hear the whispers?" The Thompsons cursed with a daughter so desperate that she attacks a man in public. "I didn't attack him," Axelle said softly. You are nothing," Celeste interrupted with a cruel laugh. "Do you think Benjamin Anderson would ever want you? You don't belong in his world. You never did. You'll always be a jinx." The word hit harder than a slap. Jinx. Curse. The exact words they had thrown at her since childhood. Axelle's hands shook, but she forced herself to meet her father's gaze. "I'm not here to beg for your approval. I came because you summoned me. Say what you want, and I'll go." Charles's eyes narrowed. For a moment, silence pressed heavily around them. "You are no daughter of mine," he said at last. "Leave this house, and do not return." The words tore through her like fire. She turned and walked away, her head high, though tears burned her eyes. Behind her, Celeste's laughter followed like poison. Outside, rain began to fall again, soft and cold against her skin. Axelle stumbled down the stone steps. Her vision blurred. Each step felt heavier, her chest aching, breath shallow. Her knees buckled. She caught herself against the iron gate, gasping for air. The curse. It was tightening around her, reminding her that time was running out. The chauffeur rushed forward. "Miss Thompson, are you all right?" "I'm fine," she whispered, though her body trembled. "Take me back." When they returned to Miami, Benjamin was waiting in the foyer. His expression was unreadable, but his eyes blazed with something dangerous. "You went to Atlanta," he said. Not a question, an accusation. Axelle nodded. "My father called me back. And," she swallowed, "he disowned me." Something flickered across Benjamin's face. Perhaps anger or something darker. "And you still went, knowing they would destroy you." "I had to," she whispered. "I had to hear it from him so I could finally let it go." His jaw tightened. "You're reckless, foolish. Do you enjoy throwing yourself into pain?" Her eyes lifted to his, burning. "Do you enjoy pretending you don't care?" The silence that followed was unbearable. And then, without warning, Benjamin stepped forward, his hand brushing her cheek, his voice low. "Don't let them touch you again. If they do, I'll make them regret it." Her heart stopped. He didn't realize it, but those words meant more to her than any declaration of love. That night, danger found her again. Axelle was walking through the garden when a shadow emerged from the trees. A man in a dark suit, face hidden beneath a hood. "Please stay away from Anderson," he hissed, pressing a knife to her side. "This is your last warning. Next time you won't walk away." Before she could scream, Benjamin's voice thundered from the balcony above. "Let her go." Security guards swarmed. The man fled into the night, but the message was clear. Someone wanted her gone. Axelle collapsed onto the grass, trembling. Benjamin rushed down, his hand gripping her shoulders. His voice for once was not cold, but frantic. "Did he hurt you?" "Tell me I'm fine," she whispered, though her body shook. "I'm fine." But Benjamin's eyes betrayed his fury. He looked out into the darkness, vowing silently that whoever dared threaten her would pay in blood. Later, Axelle sat in the library, knees pulled to her chest. The mansion was quiet, the storm outside fading into drizzle. She heard the door open softly and looked up. Benjamin stood there, shadows clinging to him. "You should have told me," he said quietly. "About your family, about how they treated you." She shook her head. "Why?" "So you could pity me. I don't want your pity." "It's not pity," he said, stepping closer. "It's anger, because they don't see you the way I do." Her breath caught. "And how do you see me?" His eyes locked onto hers, intense, unyielding. "As someone stronger than anyone I've ever met. Strong enough to face humiliation, rejection, even threats, and still stand tall." Her chest ached. She wanted to reach for him to close the space between them. But instead she whispered, "Then why do you keep pushing me away?" He exhaled sharply, running a hand through his hair. "Because wanting you is dangerous. For you, for me, for everything I've built." "Then let it burn," she whispered, her voice trembling. Silence filled the space between them for a heartbeat, charged and fragile. His hand lifted, almost touching her cheek. Then he pulled back as though burned. "Go to bed, Axelle," he said hoarsely, and left before she could see the war in his eyes. Alone in the library, Axelle pressed her hands to her face, tears slipping free. She was dangerously and hopelessly falling for a man who swore he would never love her. Benjamin stood at his window upstairs, watching the ocean rage beneath the moonlight. His chest ached with something he refused to name. But deep down, he knew Axelle Thompson had become his weakness. And that weakness might destroy them both. The Fontainebleau Hotel glittered like a palace against the Miami shoreline. its glass facade capturing the last blush of sunset. It hosted the Harrington Foundation Charity Gala tonight, where billionaires traded smiles like daggers and fortunes shifted with a whispered word. Benjamin Anderson hated such evenings, the champagne, the hollow laughter, the desperate claws of social climbers. But presence was power, and Benjamin never surrendered power. Tonight, though, there was a complication. Axelle, Richard Hale, entered Benjamin's study with a discreet folder 2 days earlier. "Sir, the Harringtons have extended a special request. They want you to bring a guest, someone to soften your image." Benjamin's jaw had tensed. "You mean a woman?" "Yes, sir. The board believes it would calm investors. After the incident, showing up alone again would send the wrong message." Benjamin's icy gaze drifted to the window to the garden where Axelle was trimming roses with careful hands. "Absolutely not," he muttered. "She'll stay out of sight." Yet, as he watched her from the balcony that evening, the thought refused to leave him. The world already saw her as a scandal. It may be time to turn scandal into strategy. The night of the gala. Axelle stood before the mirror in a gown delivered to her room by Mrs. Whitmore. Midnight blue silk hugged her figure, the neckline modest but elegant, the hem flowing like water. She touched the fabric with trembling fingers. She had never worn anything like this. She had never been meant to. A knock at the door startled her. Benjamin entered, dressed in a tailored black tuxedo. The sight of him stole her breath. He was a vision of power and restraint, the kind of man who owned every room he entered. His eyes swept over her. For once they softened. Just slightly. "You clean up well," he said, voice low. Axelle lifted her chin, fighting the blush. "And here I thought you wanted me invisible." He smirked faintly. "Tonight invisibility won't do." The gala unfolded in a blaze of chandeliers and string quartets. Couples in couture glided across the marble floors, their laughter rehearsed, their eyes hungry. When Benjamin and Axelle entered, the room shifted. Heads turned, murmurs rippled like waves. Cameras flashed, capturing the impossible, the untouchable king with the woman who had once defied him. Axelle's hand rested lightly on his arm, though her pulse raced beneath her skin. She felt like prey among predators. But Benjamin's presence beside her was a shield of steel. "Smile," he murmured near her ear. "Let them see you're unafraid." So she did. It didn't take long for the wolves to bare their teeth. Claudia appeared first, draped in crimson silk, her smile as sharp as a blade. She circled them like a predator. "Well, brother, what a surprise. I didn't think you'd bring her." Benjamin's jaw flexed. "You overthink Claudia." Her gaze slid to Axelle. "Enjoy this while it lasts, darling. In our world, charity cases don't become queens. They get discarded when the game is over." Axelle forced herself to meet her eyes. "Then it's good that I'm not here to play your game." Claudia's smile faltered just for a second. Benjamin's lips curved almost imperceptibly as though impressed. Later, as Benjamin negotiated with board members near the balcony, Axelle lingered at a table sipping champagne she couldn't taste. That was when she felt the sneer at her back. Axelle Thompson. She turned, a man in his 50s, slick hair, expensive watch, eyes gleaming with disdain. "I read all about you," he continued. "From Maid to media sensation. Quite the leap. How many nights did you spend warming Anderson's bed to secure this little fairy tale?" Gasps whispered among the nearby guests. Axelle's cheeks burned, humiliation clawing at her throat. But before she could speak, a thunder-like voice cut through the air. "Careful, Grant." Benjamin appeared at her side, his hand firm on her waist. His eyes blazed with fury. "Speak about her like that again, and you'll find yourself blocked from every boardroom on Wall Street." The investor paled, stammered, and vanished into the crowd. Axelle stared up at Benjamin, stunned. His grip softened, but he didn't release. She felt the world shift for the first time. He wasn't just defending his image. He was defending her. Later, the orchestra struck a waltz. Benjamin extended his hand, his expression unreadable. "Dance with me." Her heart stumbled. "Are you serious? Everyone's watching." "That's the point." She placed her hand in his, and he led her to the floor. His hand pressed lightly against her back, his steps steady, commanding. The crowd parted, all eyes on them. "You're trembling," he murmured. "Maybe because this feels like a dream I'll wake from." His gaze locked on hers, intense, searching. "And if it isn't a dream?" Her breath caught. She had no answer. The music swelled, spinning them in a storm of light and shadows. For a fleeting moment, the rest of the world disappeared, and it was just them, fire and ice colliding in rhythm. The music ended. Applause rippled, and then the next storm struck. At the entrance stood Marcus Vance, Benjamin's longtime rival in finance, a man with charm as polished as poison. His eyes landed on Axelle, and his smile widened. Well, well, so the rumors were true. He approached, bowing slightly. "Miss Thompson, it's an honor." Benjamin always had impeccable taste. Benjamin's hand tightened on hers. "Stay away, Marcus." Marcus's grin deepened. "Protective, aren't we? Strange coming from a man who once swore he'd never touch a woman." "What changed? Or rather, who changed you?" The implication hung heavy. Cameras flashed, capturing every expression. Benjamin's lips pressed into a thin line, but Axelle spoke first. Her voice was calm, steady, though her heart raced. "What changed him, Mr. Vance? It could be the same thing that terrifies you. That someone like me can stand here not because of his money or name, but because he allows it, and because I refuse to bow." The crowd buzzed. Marcus chuckled, retreating, but the seed of tension was sown. Rivalry had become war. Hours later, as the gala ended, Benjamin and Axelle returned to the mansion. The ride was silent, but the air pulsed with unspoken words. In the foyer, Benjamin finally turned to her. His eyes, usually shields of ice, now burned with something raw. "You shouldn't have spoken to Marcus like that. He's dangerous." Axelle lifted her chin. "So am I, if pushed." For a moment, silence reigned. Then Benjamin stepped closer, his voice low. "You're playing with fire, Axelle, and fire consumes." Her breath trembled. "Then maybe I want to burn." The space between them throbbed with tension, his hand almost reaching for her before he pulled back. He turned sharply, retreating into the shadows of the hall. Axelle stood alone, her heart pounding, her body trembling with fear and exhilaration. That night, Benjamin lay awake in his vast, empty bed, staring at the ceiling. He told himself she was a distraction, a weakness he could not afford. But her courage, her fire, her defiance, they haunted him. In the next room, Axelle pressed the copper coin to her chest, whispering a prayer into the darkness. Neither knew what the future held, but both understood this truth. The walls between them were crumbling, and once they fell, nothing would ever be the same. The morning sun spilled gold across the ocean outside the Anderson estate, but inside the mansion, shadows lingered. The gala night had not ended when they left the glittering ballroom. For Benjamin, it hadn't ended at all. He stood in his study sleeves, rolled eyes bloodshot from a night without sleep. The image of Axelle in that midnight blue gown haunted him, her defiance, her fire, the way she had stood against Marcus Vance without fear. And worst of all, his chest tightened when she spoke as if her courage belonged to him too. Benjamin Anderson hated weakness, but she was becoming his greatest weakness. Upstairs, Axelle folded the gown carefully, laying it across the chair in her small attic room. It felt almost sacrilegious to return it to the closet, as though that night had been a dream she should preserve. But the curse did not care for gowns or galas. Her chest still ached faintly, a reminder of the moment in Atlanta when her father's rejection had nearly broken her body. She pressed the copper coin against her lips, whispering to herself, "Stay strong, Axelle. You can't falter now, not when fate keeps pulling you back to him." She tried to ignore the heaviness in her limbs, the dizziness that came and went like shadows at the edge of her vision. But deep down, she knew the curse was stirring again. That afternoon, Benjamin returned from a tense board meeting. He found Axelle in the garden, bent over the roses, her hair catching the sunlight like strands of midnight. "You shouldn't be working," he said sharply. She glanced up, surprised. "I thought you wanted me to be useful." "Not if it kills you." His words came out harsher than he intended. She tilted her head, studying him. "Since when have you cared if I live or die?" For once, Benjamin couldn't answer. His throat tightened, his gaze betraying more than his lips would confess. Finally, he turned away. "Don't push yourself." Her smile was soft, bittersweet. "You're terrible at hiding kindness, Benjamin Anderson." That evening, the mansion hosted a private dinner for several influential senators. Axelle moved quietly among the staff, carrying trays, ensuring the silver gleamed. But halfway through the evening, a wave of heat washed over her. The room spun. Her breath came shallow. She tried to steady herself, but her knees buckled. The tray clattered to the floor, crystal shattering across marble. Gasps rose. Benjamin shot to his feet instantly. "Axelle." She collapsed into his arms, her face, pale lips trembling. "It's the curse," she whispered, before her eyes fluttered shut. The room erupted in whispers. Cameras flashed. Some of the guests had not resisted snapping photos. But Benjamin didn't care. He carried her out, ignoring the stares, ignoring the murmurs of scandal, gold digger disgrace. Upstairs in her room, he lay her gently on the bed. His hands trembled as he touched her forehead, cool with sweat. "Stay with me," he whispered fiercely. "Don't you dare leave me." Within the hour, Dr. Whitman, the family physician, arrived. He scrutinized Axelle, his brows furrowed. "She's weak, dangerously so," he said gravely. "Her pulse is irregular. It's as though something unseen is draining her life force." Benjamin's fists clenched. "Please fix it." Dr. Whitman shook his head. "I can treat the symptoms, but not the cause. This is beyond medicine." His eyes flicked to the copper coin on Axelle's nightstand. "Whatever this is, it runs deeper than science." Benjamin's blood ran cold. The prophecy, the curse, the absurd story Axelle had whispered in fragments, the one he had refused to believe. Now, faced with her pale face against the pillow, he could no longer deny it. That night, Benjamin sat by her bedside. He watched her chest rise and fall, each breath fragile, as though it might be her last. His empire, his power, his pride, all of it felt meaningless compared to the terror of losing her. He reached for her hand. For the first time in years, Benjamin Anderson prayed. Not to a God he believed in, but to anyone who would listen. "Don't take her," he whispered. "Not her." Axelle stirred faintly, her lips moving. He leaned closer, hearing her murmur his name like a plea. Something broke inside him. He pressed his forehead against her hand, his voice hoarse. "You win, Axelle. You've ruined me. Because if you die, I die too." Meanwhile, Marcus Vance smiled as he read the tabloids. Pictures of Axelle collapsing in Benjamin's arms spread like wildfire. Headlines screamed scandal. "This is perfect," Marcus murmured to his assistant. "Anderson's empire is vulnerable. The girl is his Achilles' heel. Exploit it." The war had begun. By morning, Axelle opened her eyes. The first thing she saw was Benjamin asleep in a chair beside her bed. his head resting against the mattress, his hands still wrapped around hers. Her heart ached at the sight. She reached out, brushing a strand of hair from his forehead. He stirred, blinking awake. "You're awake," he breathed, relief flooding his features. "Did you stay here all night?" she whispered. "I wasn't going to leave you." Tears welled in her eyes. "Why do you care so much, Benjamin? You keep saying you don't want me, but every time I fall, you catch me." His gaze locked onto hers, raw and unguarded because I can't stop. For a heartbeat, silence reigned. Then slowly he leaned closer, his lips hovering just above hers. The air between them crackled with need, fear, and the weight of everything unsaid. But before their lips could meet, the door burst open. Richard Hale stood there breathless. "Benjamin Marcus Vance just launched a hostile bid for your company." The moment shattered. Benjamin's jaw hardened, his mask sliding back into place. But as he turned to leave, his eyes lingered on Axelle, a silent promise burning in the blue. When the door closed, Axelle lay back, her chest still weak, but her spirit stronger. She knew now that Benjamin could no longer deny the bond between them. Fate had chained them together, curse or not. And as the war with Marcus loomed, she whispered into the morning light, "Whatever comes, Benjamin, I'm not letting go. Not of you." The Anderson estate was silent, but war brewed beneath its marble floors and gilded ceilings. Benjamin stood in the study blinds drawn against the Miami sun. Papers littered his desk, reports of Marcus Vance's hostile bid, stock market, tremors, the whispers of board members losing faith. None of it unsettled him more than the faint memory of Axelle's trembling voice as she whispered his name in her sleep. Richard Hale entered, cautious as always. "Sir, the board is unsettled. Vance has already pulled 2 of our investors into his camp. They want reassurance. They want stability." Benjamin's jaw tightened. "Then I'll give them stability." Richard hesitated. "They're not just questioning the numbers. They're questioning her." Benjamin's eyes snapped up. "Axelle." "Yes, they believe she's become a liability. They fear her presence invites scandal. And with the collapse last night." Richard's voice faltered. "Your family agrees." That evening, Benjamin's grandmother, Eleanor Anderson, arrived unannounced. She was a formidable woman, white hair swept into a chignon, her diamond necklace a quiet crown. Her presence alone demanded silence. Benjamin greeted her in the grand hall, his shoulders squared. "Grandmother." Eleanor's sharp eyes scanned him, then moved past him to where Axelle appeared at the top of the stairs, still pale from her collapse. Eleanor's lips tightened. "So it's true," she said coldly. "The maid has become the mistress." Axelle froze. Benjamin's voice cut in steel hard. "She is not a maid." "Then what is she?" Eleanor's gaze returned to him. "A scandal. A distraction. The reason Marcus Vance dares to come for us is, do you not see, Benjamin? She weakens you. She strengthens me." He shot back. Silence. The admission hung in the air, raw and dangerous. Eleanor's eyes narrowed. "Careful, boy. Emotions are a leash, and in our world, the one wearing the leash is already dead." Later, Eleanor cornered Axelle in the library. The older woman's perfume was sharp, suffocating, her cane tapping softly against the polished floor. "You think you've won, don't you?" she said quietly. "That's because Benjamin defends you. You belong here." Axelle met her gaze, forcing her voice steady. "I won't win anything. I'm just trying to survive." Eleanor's laugh was cold. "Survive girls like you don't survive in our world. You're a curse wrapped in pretty defiance, and curses destroy men like Benjamin." Axelle's throat tightened, but she stood tall. "You may be right. Perhaps I don't belong here, but I won't let you decide my worth." Eleanor leaned close, her eyes glinting. If you genuinely cared for him, you'd leave before you drag him to ruin. The words burrowed deep, reopening every scar Axelle carried from her father's stepmother and half-sister. The same accusation, you are poison. But she refused to cry. Not here. Not before this woman. That night, Benjamin found Axelle on the balcony, staring at the ocean, her face pale beneath the moonlight. "She spoke to you," he said, his voice low. Axelle didn't turn. "She thinks I'll destroy you." Benjamin stepped closer, his hand brushing hers against the railing. "You won't." "How do you know?" Her voice trembled. "Everyone says I'm a curse, that I'll ruin everything I touch. And maybe they're right." His chest tightened. For once he dropped the armor, his words breaking free. "You're not a curse, Axelle. You're the only thing keeping me alive." Her breath caught. She turned, searching his face. His eyes, those blue eyes usually cold as steel, burned with a truth he could no longer deny. And before she could stop herself, she whispered, "Then prove it." He reached for her, his hand cradling her face, thumb brushing her cheek. She trembled, her lips parting the world, narrowing to this moment, his breath against hers, the promise of a kiss that would seal everything they had fought against. But just as his lips grazed hers, a door slamming echoed through the hall. They broke apart. Claudia entered, her eyes glittering with triumph. "So it's true. The Ice King melts for a maid." Benjamin's gaze turned lethal. "Leave Claudia." "Gladly," she sneered. "But the world will know. And when Marcus Vance drags your empire into the ground, don't say I didn't warn you who held the knife." Later, Claudia met with Marcus in a dimly lit bar downtown. Her voice was venomous. "She blinds him. Use it. Make the girl the crack in his armor." Marcus's smile was slow, deliberate. "Oh, I intend to." Together they toasted, their alliance sealed. The war against Benjamin and Axelle had found new generals. Days later, Axelle sat at her small desk, the copper coin clutched in her hand. Eleanor echoed, "If you cared for him, you'd leave." Her body still weakened from the collapse, her soul bruised by rejection. She wondered if maybe they were all right. Maybe Benjamin's world was too dangerous, too cruel. Maybe staying would destroy them both. But then she remembered the way he had looked at her, the way he had said she was the only thing keeping him alive. And for the first time, she whispered to the coin, "I won't leave him. Not now. Not ever." The turning point came at a board meeting 3 days later. Eleanor sat at the head of the table, Claudia at her side, and Marcus Vance was smugly present as a guest. When Benjamin entered, Axelle followed. Gasps rippled through the room. No one brought their scandal to such meetings. Eleanor's voice was sharp. "This is inappropriate." Benjamin's gaze swept the room. "No. What's inappropriate is that you think you can decide my life." Marcus smirked. "So it's official then. The great Benjamin Anderson is undone by love." Benjamin's voice cut like thunder. "Undone. No. Redefined. Axelle Thompson is with me. Anyone with a problem can walk out and take their investments." The room buzzed with shock. Eleanor's eyes blazed. Claudia's lips curled into a sneer. But no one moved. At that moment, Benjamin knew he had declared war on Marcus and his blood. That night, Axelle found Benjamin in the garden, the stars sharp above them. "You risked everything," she whispered. He turned, his gaze fierce. "I'd risk more for you." Her heart broke open at the words. For the first time, she stepped into his arms willingly, laying her head against his chest. Benjamin closed his eyes, holding her tightly. He didn't know what the future held. Curse, scandal, betrayal. But he knew this. He would fight every wolf in the world to keep her safe. And for the first time, Axelle believed him. The Miami night pulsed with restless energy. From the balcony of the Anderson estate, Axelle could hear the ocean crashing against the shore, wild and untamed, so much like her own heart. Benjamin had risked everything for her. She had stood at his side in that boardroom, felt the storm of whispers, the weight of condemnation. Yet he had not flinched. He had claimed her before the world. And though her heart ached with gratitude, fear coiled inside her. Because love in their world was never love, it was a weapon, and Marcus Vance was sharpening his blade. Marcus poured himself a glass of scotch in a penthouse, overlooking Brickell Avenue, watching the city glitter below. Claudia lounged on the sofa, her crimson dress spilling like blood across the cushions. "You saw how he defended her," Marcus said, swirling the glass. "He's no longer thinking like a strategist. He's feeling like a man in love. That makes him weak." Claudia's smile was feline. "So how do you intend to use her?" Marcus leaned forward, his eyes gleaming. "Simple. I'll take her from him. And when she breaks, so will he." It happened 2 nights later. Axelle had entered Miami's Little Haiti district, determined to buy herbs her late master once used for healing. The curse had been tightening again, her chest aching, her breath shallow. She needed answers. The shop was quiet, the air heavy with incense. An older woman gave her a bundle of dried roots, whispering warnings of shadows that hunted. Axelle clutched the package close, hurrying back to the waiting car. But the car never came. As she stepped into the street, a black SUV pulled up. A hand clamped over her mouth. Her scream was swallowed as she was dragged inside. The door slammed. Darkness. Hours later, Richard burst into Benjamin's study, pale and frantic. "Sir, Axelle, she's gone." Benjamin rose the glass in his hand, shattering against the desk. "What do you mean, gone?" "She went to Little Haiti. The driver said she never returned. We found her phone on the ground." A silence colder than death fell. Then Benjamin's voice, low and lethal. "Marcus." Richard hesitated. It fits his pattern. "Sir, what do you want to do?" Benjamin's eyes blazed with a fury no one had seen in years. "I want her back. Now." Axelle woke in a dim warehouse. Her wrists were bound, the copper coin stripped from her neck. Panic surged, but she forced herself to breathe. Panic would not save her. Marcus appeared impeccably dressed, even here, his smile infuriatingly calm. "Good evening, Axelle. You're even lovelier when you're afraid." Her voice trembled, but she glared at him. "What do you want?" "Nothing complicated," Marcus said, crouching to her level. "I want Benjamin Anderson's empire, and you are the key. I won't help you." He chuckled. "Oh, you already have. You see, every second you're here, Benjamin is unraveling. His empire runs on fear, on control, and you've taken both from him. He'll hand me everything to get you back when I'm finished." Axelle's chest ached again, the curse surging with venom, but she lifted her chin. "You underestimate him, and you underestimate me." Benjamin tore through Miami like a storm. Every contact, every informant, every shadow of Marcus's empire, he crushed them for answers. By dawn, his fists were bloodied, his voice hoarse, but he had a lead, an abandoned warehouse on the river. Richard tried to stop him. "Sir, it could be a trap." "I don't care," Benjamin snapped. "She's mine." The warehouse smelled of rust and gasoline. Axelle sat in the corner, her body weak, but her spirit unbroken. The doors exploded open. Benjamin strode in, a predator unleashed. His eyes locked onto her, and relief flickered across her face momentarily. Benjamin. But Marcus stepped from the shadows, a gun in his hand. "Careful, Anderson. One wrong move and your precious maid won't live to see tomorrow." Benjamin's voice was ice. "If you touch her, Marcus, I will bury you." Marcus smirked. "Then bury me, but she'll go first." The standoff stretched seconds, bleeding into eternity. Axelle's chest burned, her vision blurring. The curse was winning, If Benjamin didn't act soon, she would collapse again. Summoning the last of her strength, Axelle whispered, "Benjamin, don't let him decide my fate." Her words shattered his restraint. In a blur, Benjamin lunged. The gun fired, echoing through the steel beams. Marcus staggered as Benjamin's fist connected fury, raining in brutal strikes. Security stormed in, dragging Marcus away. Benjamin dropped to his knees beside Axelle, his hands trembling as they untied her wrists. "Axelle, look at me. Stay with me." Her eyes fluttered open, weak but alive. "You came." His voice broke. "I'll always come." Back at the mansion, Dr. Whitman examined her again. "Her condition is deteriorating," he warned. "This isn't just exhaustion. Something deeper is at work." Benjamin sat beside her bed, refusing to move. He held her hand, his thumb tracing circles against her skin. "You nearly died," he whispered. She gave a faint smile. "But I didn't, because of you." "No," he said, his voice fierce, "because of us. You fight, I fight. Do you understand?" Her eyes softened. "Then we fight together." That night, as the house slept, Benjamin remained by her side. The storm outside beat against the windows, but he spoke the words he had buried for too long inside. "I love you, Axelle Thompson." She turned, eyes wide, breath caught. "I fought it. God knows I fought it. But I can't anymore. You're in my blood. You're in every breath I take. And if the curse wants you, it'll have to take me too." Tears slid down her cheeks. Her voice trembled as she whispered, "I love you too, Benjamin Anderson." He leaned down, finally claiming her lips in a promise and surrender kiss. The storm outside raged, but inside, for one fleeting moment, they were infinite. Far across the city, Marcus nursed his wounds, hatred burning in his veins. Claudia stood beside him, her smile cruel. "Let him have his romance," Marcus said darkly. "It will only make the fall sweeter." Although Benjamin had won the battle, the war had just begun, and the curse had not yet spoken its final word. The storm had passed, leaving the Miami coastline glittering beneath a pale dawn. However, the night lingered in whispers and heavy silence in the Anderson estate. Axelle lay in her room, the warmth of Benjamin's confession still clinging to her like a fragile flame. She had heard the words she never thought possible. "I love you, Axelle Thompson," and she had given her heart in return. But love, she knew, was not enough to fight a curse that had stalked her since birth. By mid-morning, her body betrayed her again. The faint ache in her chest flared into stabbing pain. She tried to rise, but dizziness crushed her. The copper coin on her nightstand pulsed faintly, as though mocking her. Mrs. Whitmore found her collapsed on the floor and screamed for help. Within minutes, Benjamin was there, carrying her in his arms, as though she weighed nothing. His jaw was tight, his eyes shadowed with fear. "Call Dr. Whitman," he barked. "Now!" But when the doctor arrived, his face was grim. "Her condition is deteriorating faster than expected. I can only stabilize her for so long. Benjamin, medicine won't save her." Benjamin's voice was raw. "Then what will?" The doctor hesitated. "You said her master once spoke of a curse." Axelle, pale and trembling, nodded. "He said the only way to survive past 26 was to marry the one destined for me, someone who shared my unique fate." Her eyes flicked to Benjamin, tears brimming. The doctor's silence was answer enough. That night, Benjamin stood alone in his study, staring at the city skyline. His empire stretched before him, towering skyscrapers, endless wealth, power that bent men to his will. And none of it mattered. What good was power if he couldn't keep her alive? Marriage. The word itself was a chain. He had sworn never to love, never to be bound after the tragedy of his mother's death and his father's betrayal. Yet now fate demanded he break that vow. His chest ached with its weight. The choice was clear, his pride or her life. As if summoned by his turmoil, Eleanor Anderson entered the study. She moved like a queen, her cane tapping lightly against the marble floor. "I warned you," she said coldly. "The girl is your ruin." Benjamin's voice was ice. "Get out." But she ignored him. "Marry her and you tie this family's fortune to a curse. Do you understand what that means? Investors will flee. Enemies will pounce. And when she dies anyway, your empire will die with her." Benjamin's fists clenched. "She won't die." Eleanor's lips curled. "Do you really believe love conquers curses? Grow up, Benjamin. Choose the family. Choose the empire. Let her go." He turned his eyes blazing. "The family, the empire, they mean nothing without her. I would burn it all before I lose her." For the first time, Eleanor faltered. She saw it then, the same fire she had seen in his grandfather's years ago, a fire that could not be tamed. Without another word, she left her cane echoing through the hall like a warning bell. Meanwhile, in her room, Axelle stared at the copper coin. Her chest still burned with pain, but her heart ached more from Benjamin's silence since the doctor's words. She feared he would retreat, that his confession had been a fleeting surrender. And yet part of her longed to free him, to walk away before she dragged him into ruin. She whispered to the coin, "If my death saves him, then maybe that's the destiny I was born for." But deep down, her soul screamed for something else, one more chance to live, love, and belong. Benjamin entered her room near midnight. His face was pale, drawn, as though he had aged years in hours. She looked up, tears glistening. "You don't have to do this. You don't have to marry me." He froze. "Who told you that I heard what the doctor said? And your grandmother. They're right. If you marry me, you risk everything. Your empire, your name. I'm not worth that." He was at her side in 2 strides, gripping her shoulders with trembling hands. "Don't you dare say that. You're worth more than all of it. You're the only thing that matters." Her breath caught. "Then why do you look so broken?" "Because I swore I would never love again. And now fate is laughing at me." His voice cracked. "I don't know if marriage will save you. I don't know if I can protect you. But I know this, I cannot live without you." Tears slid down her cheeks. She reached up, cupping his face with weak hands. "Then don't. Don't live without me. Live with me, whatever it costs." For the first time, Benjamin let himself fall. He gathered her into his arms, holding her as if she were both fragile glass and the anchor to his soul. Across the city, Marcus and Claudia plotted. "She's sick," Claudia purred, sipping champagne. "The girl won't last long. Why not let fate do the work?" Marcus shook his head, his grin wolfish. "No, we don't wait. We make the final move. If Anderson marries her, his empire rallies behind their love story. We need to strike before that happens." He lifted a file of photographs, spilling across the table, Axelle leaving the shop in Little Haiti. Benjamin, carrying her from the boardroom, the kiss in the mansion garden. "Tomorrow," Marcus said softly, "we release it all. And when the world devours them, Anderson will finally kneel." Benjamin didn't wait for tomorrow. At dawn, he entered Axelle's room. She sat by the window, the first light painting her skin in gold, her eyes shadowed by fatigue. He dropped to one knee before her. Her breath stilled. "Benjamin." He took her hand, his voice steady, though his heart thundered. "I swore I would never marry." But then I met you, and I learned that vows mean nothing when fate has already chosen. Her tears spilled freely. Don't do this out of pity. This isn't pity, he cut in fiercely. This is love. I love you, Axelle Thompson. I love you enough to risk everything. So marry me. Not for the curse, not for the empire, for us. Her heart shattered and mended all at once. She whispered the only answer she had. Yes. They sealed the moment in a kiss that was both vow and surrender, their tears mingling as dawn broke over the ocean. But even as their souls bound themselves, danger stirred. Across Miami, headlines began to spread photos. Rumors, lies spun into truth. The world was turning against them. And Marcus Vance smiled, knowing the storm had only just begun. The world woke in flames of scandal. Headlines splashed across every screen. Billionaire Anderson to marry Maid. Photographs of Benjamin carrying Axelle from the boardroom. Their kiss under the storm. Axelle's collapse in his arms. Every intimate moment was now public fodder. Investors panicked. The Anderson board trembled. And at the heart of it all, Marcus Vance smiled like the devil watching his fire burn. But within the Anderson estate, something more substantial than scandal, pulsed love fragile yet unbreakable. Axelle sat by the window, the copper coin warm against her skin, her body weak, but her heart fierce. She read the headlines, the vicious words tearing into her gold-digger curse fraud. For a moment, she almost believed them. Almost. Then Benjamin entered, his face carved in steel. He tossed the newspapers onto the table, where they scattered like ash. Let them write. Let them scream. None of it matters. What matters is us. Her eyes shimmered with doubt. But they'll never accept me. They don't have to. His hand cupped her face, his thumb brushing away her tears. Because I do. The decision was swift. Benjamin called the press, summoned the board, and announced it himself. Yes, I am marrying Axelle Thompson. You may call it a scandal. I call it love. If you doubt me, walk away now. Shockwaves rippled across Miami Wall Street and beyond. Some investors fled. Others stayed, but Benjamin did not flinch. The wedding was set for a week later, on the private island villa he owned off the Florida Keys. The day arrived like a painting. The sky brushed in gold, the ocean glittering. Guests gathered beneath white canopies, cameras flashing, reporters murmuring. Axelle stood behind closed doors, dressed in a gown of ivory silk. Her heart pounded like thunder. She had dreamed of this, feared it, prayed for it. But a sharp pain lanced her chest as she touched the copper coiner chest. The curse was stirring, cruel and hungry, determined to have its final say. The ceremony began. Benjamin stood at the altar, his tuxedo sharp, his eyes fixed only on her. As Axelle walked down the aisle, every whisper and every camera disappeared. It was only them, until Marcus Vance's voice shattered the silence. Stop this farce! Gasps rose as Marcus strode into the aisle, Claudia at his side. Security rushed forward, but Benjamin raised his hand. His eyes burned like ice. Say your piece, he growled. Marcus smirked, lifting a folder of documents. Proof of fraud. Evidence of your bride's family debts, her past, her lies. She's no blessing, Anderson. She's your ruin. And if you go through with this, you'll lose everything. All eyes turned to Axelle. Her chest heaved with pain and shame. Her curse pressed down like iron. Benjamin looked at her, his choice laid bare before the world. He stepped forward, voice ringing out like thunder. You think I care about fortune, about the empire? You're wrong. I care about her. About us. He took Axelle's trembling hand, lifting it for all to see. This woman is not my ruin. She is my salvation. And if the price of love is losing everything else, let it all burn. The crowd erupted in whispers, outrage, and disbelief. Marcus's face twisted with fury. Claudia hissed beside him. But in that moment, the curse struck. Axelle gasped, collapsing in Benjamin's arms. Her body convulsed, her breath shallow, the copper coin glowing faintly before dimming. Axelle Benjamin shouted, his voice breaking. "Stay with me!" Chaos erupted. Guests screamed. Reporters captured every second. But Benjamin saw none of it. He only saw her, the woman he loved, slipping away in his arms. He pressed his forehead to hers, tears streaking his face. "Please, please don't leave me. I can't lose you. Not now. Not ever." Her lips trembled. "The curse. It's too strong." "No," he whispered fiercely. "It ends here. It ends with us." He pulled her to her feet, holding her against his chest, and turned back to the altar. His voice boomed, "Finish the vows." "Now." The priest stammered, then hurriedly continued the words. Benjamin's eyes locked onto hers, fierce and desperate. "I, Benjamin Anderson, take you, Axelle Thompson, for richer, for poorer in sickness and health, till death do us part." Axelle, trembling, summoned the last of her strength. "I take you, Benjamin Anderson, in love and in fate, forever." The words rang out like a command to the heavens. The copper coin blazed with light, then shattered into ash. The curse screamed and broke. Axelle gasped, her breath returning, her chest easing. The pain dissolved. For the first time, she felt free. The crowd fell silent. Benjamin kissed her, then fiercely, desperately sealing the vow before men and fate itself. And the world for once applauded. Marcus was dragged away by security, his documents torn and useless. Claudia's smile cracked, her power shattered. Eleanor Anderson, watching from her seat, lowered her gaze. For all her cruelty, she saw it now. Benjamin had chosen love, and in choosing, he had triumphed. When the ceremony ended, Benjamin lifted Axelle into his arms, carrying her down the aisle. Not as a scandal, not as a weakness, but as his wife. Weeks later, they walked barefoot along the sands of the private island. Axelle's laughter rang like music, her skin glowing with health restored. The curse was gone, the coin, nothing more than memory. Benjamin stopped pulling her close. "Do you regret it? The chaos, the scandal, the war." She shook her head, smiling softly. "Not for a second. Because it brought me you." He kissed her slow and sure. For the first time in his life, Benjamin Anderson felt peace. And for the first time, Axelle Thompson felt at home. Together they had rewritten fate, and so ends their story. A tale of love forged in fire, tested by betrayal, and sanctified by fate. To everyone who has walked this journey with Benjamin and Axelle, love is never easy. It demands courage, sacrifice, and defiance. But when real, it conquers curses, silences enemies, and rewrites destiny. If their story moved you, if you believe love like this can still exist, share it, tell it, keep it alive. Because stories like these aren't just told, they're lived.